Howdy y'all, today we are looking at another off-meta Seraphon list. This one I want to focus on something that might take your opponent a little off guard, and that's melee skinks. Yes, you heard me right, melee skinks. Now you've probably got a ton of skinks. Here's a picture of some of mine, and they're probably all kitted out with Boltspitters and shields, because that's how we ran them last time. That's kind of the traditional loadout in the new book. But I think there might be a way to run skinks that's actually pretty good, and that's as melee skinks. So we're going to take a look at that list today. What can we do with melee skinks in Seraphon? This will definitely surprise your opponents when they see Seraphon coming to the table, and you're like, I'm going to beat you down with skinks in melee. Alright, let's take a look. So, quick overview. Skinks, their War Scroll card, honestly, from just glancing at it, is pretty bad. We lost their tricks. Now they have a few extra things here and there. The thing that really helps us out is the buffs that we can apply to them. Without those buffs, they would not be worth taking in anything other than a screen unit. One of their big things is the swarming cohort ability, in that you can add one to the attack characteristics of weapons used by this unit while it has 15 or more models. And so we're really going to capitalize that because it doesn't say in melee or shooting, so it's both. That's cool. So we get an extra attack in shooting and an extra attack in melee. And so we're really going to lean into that and pump up those attacks that we can get for these skinks and see what we can do. Their traditional damage is if you're just doing the War Scroll, it's actually pretty pathetic because their Boltspitters are hitting on 5s and 5s. I mean, you're gonna no rend, so you're gonna average 4 damage. But we've talked about that in the previous video on skinks. You can find that on my channel here if you wanna do a deep dive on skinks. Here's the buffs we're gonna apply to these guys, and this is pretty standard for your skinks. But with 40 skinks with Boltspitters, they got 2 attacks each. We're going to give them +1 to hit from the Skink Priest, run and shoot from the Skink Priest, 6s to wound, do an extra mortal from the Starpriest, reroll hit rolls of 1. You can either do that from the Hand of Glory from the Starpriest or use a command point if you need to. In Fangs of Sotek, they get extra range, so they get +3 turn 1, +3 to their movement. Plus they can run and shoot from the Skink Priest that we talked about. And we'll give them +1 to run and charge from the Constellation. So with all that, they have a huge effective threat range of up to 34 inches. So that's pretty nice for their shooting. Also, our charges, we should be able to get in charges fairly easy with these guys if we get all the stuff off. And their damage looks better now. So this is just the Boltspitters. They do 15 damage there on a 4-up save with those buffs from those 2 small heroes. So that's all pretty standard stuff. That's how you usually run your skinks. But we're going to add the melee aspect into it. And so with 40 skinks with Boltspitters and clubs, they've got 2 attacks on their shooting and melee. And we're going to spend a command point from the Stegadon with Skink Chief for +1 melee attacks. And so that it's going to give those Moonstone clubs, which is what we're going to take on these guys, 3 attacks now, and they still get all the same buffs from everything else. And so now if we're saying 40 can shoot and 20 are in combat range, that's 2 ranks deep. They can fight 2 ranks deep since they're on 25s. Look at that damage. 35 damage against a 4-up save from a unit of skinks. Whew. I like that. That's good. And so that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to build our list around that. We're getting 5 attacks from each skink in shooting and including the melee. And those all take those same buffs, +1 to hit, mortals on the wounds. So you can really pump out a lot of damage from these skinks. People aren't going to be ready for that. They're not going to be ready for 35 damage coming from a unit of skinks. What is this? Look. If you're going up against a 6-up save, you're going to do almost 50. That's awesome. So what's the list? What are we doing with these melee? This one is definitely an off-meta list. Check this out. All right, we are doing Fangs of Sotek. You'll notice my leaders here. I don't have any Lord Croak, Slann. We're not taking the standard. This is off-meta, so we're going away from the traditional Seraphon lists here. We're taking 2 Stegadon Chiefs, 2 Starpriests, and 2 Priests. You can kind of see that we're doubling up on all the buffs that we need. It's for redundancy, but it's also because we got a lot of units that we need to buff. So in Fangs of Sotek, if you don't know about Fangs of Sotek, you get extra movement, but you also get, if they charge you, you can spend a command point on the Skinks and get to fire them off. So you're really going to dissuade people from charging you in Fangs of Sotek, which is always kind of nice, especially when you're kitted out with melee Skinks. Go ahead, charge me. I'm going to shoot you, and then I'm going to melee you to death. So our Stegadon, we're gonna make him our general, and because he's not a Source hero, he can get out of the command trait from Fangs of Sotek, and so we're gonna give him Master of Star Rituals. That's a Skink command trait, and what that does is that allows him to use the Skink Priest the command ability once per turn for free, and so it's basically a free command point that we're going to use every turn. That's a +1 to hit. And so we're going to put that on 1 unit of Skinks, and then we've got 2 Skink Priests that we can use command points on to give another 2 units of Skinks. So of our 4 hordes of Skinks, 3 of them should have the +1 to hit every turn if we have enough command points. But one of them for sure for free from the Stegadon Chief. He is taking the Skystreak Bow. This gives us some ranged damage. We definitely don't need the flamethrowers in this army. We've got enough dice we're rolling from the Skinks. So Skystreak Bow to pop off some heroes in the backfield. The other Stegadon with Skink Chief, we're going to give him the required artifact from Fangs of Sotek, the Serpent God Dagger. This is a lot of fun because on this guy, if you're charging him in, you can just auto delete any other hero, any other model. It's the one where if you do any damage on a 5-up, the enemy model is slain. So it's unlikely to happen, but when it does, it's going to be glorious. Your Skink Starpriest, I'm taking Hand of Glory on both of them just to kind of double up on my redundancies here because these guys are pretty low wound, and they will probably get sniped or mortal wounded off the table at some point. So the double up on Hand of Glory is good. That's the reroll hit rolls of 1, so it basically just saves you a command point, which we won't have a ton of command points in this army, not as much as normal with Croak, but the 2 Star Priests do give you a chance at an extra command point each, and so you should go into a turn with about 2 command points usually, maybe 3 if you're lucky. My 2 Skink Priests are there, and that you can kind of see my theme here is we're going to have the set of buffs for each unit of Skinks. We'll send them off to fight, then we'll buff the next one, send them off to fight. We do have 4 hordes of 40 Skinks, and then we're doing Boltspitters and Moonstone clubs on these. Now they're going to have a 6-up save on a lot of wounds here, 160 wounds at 6-up save, but with the Skink Priest, they will go down to a 5-up. This is all about killing your enemy before they have a chance to grind through all these wounds. So that'll be the game plan. We are taking an extra command point. We want to start with one in case they alpha charge us. We can shoot off from Fangs of Sotek ability one of the units of Skinks into their guys. And I'm taking Bound Geminids, which is just a great spell. We're gonna cast that from whichever Skink Starpriest is into a Hand of Glory, turn 1. And then Bound Quicksilver Swords. I like this one just because it's a good way to snipe off some hero, especially against Chaos if you face it. So there we go. We got almost 200 wounds of melee Skinks. These guys will surprise them. Now, you're going to surprise somebody because you're going to have painted 160 Skinks. That's a feat in and of itself. But these guys right here, this is a melee force to be reckoned with. I want to say it's kind of a glass hammer because all these Skinks have a 6-up save native, but you've got 160 of them. So that's still 160 wounds somebody's got to chew through before they get killed off by all your shots. So I don't think it's not as glassy and fragile as you might think because of just how many wounds it has. It is susceptible to anti-horde stuff, but I think you have enough movement around the board in this list that you can do some pretty crazy stuff. So let's see what this looks like on the table. I loaded it up in Tabletop Simulator, so let's check that out. There we go. Yes. No, this is not a Clan Pestilence army you're looking at. This is a Skink melee army. This kind of lines up a lot with how a Clan Pestilence is deployed. You've got your big monster, your big support hero, your blobs that are going to be moving forward, but this list is a lot faster, and it's got range. I've got my two heroes here. They're gonna be in the middle of these two blobs of skinks, and I think what our objective will be in this game type is to buff up this unit and this unit from the small heroes, and then send them forward along with our Stegadon. And then the same thing will happen over with this unit as well. So we're gonna buff them up from these two heroes, send them forward along with our Stegadon. And the great thing about this is two of these units that you're going to be given run and charge to if you get the prayers off from the Skink Priests can basically have a board wide threat. But don't forget about your teleport, because you can still teleport one of these units and you should be able to get 3 hordes of skinks into your enemy turn 1. That's a lot of dice. That's a lot of dice that's going to be rolling. So get used to what your cards are if you're going to play this, and how it rolls out on the table, so you can get that gameplay quickly. But man, that is a beautiful thing. That many skinks, it's kind of fun. I like it. I'm going to test out some of this at some point. My skinks don't have clubs, but I'm just going to pretend they do, and I'm going to test this out and see how it goes. If the math holds up to on the table with the dice roll. So, all right, how's that for off meta for Seraphon? We got some Skink melee. How do you think that would work? Anything I'm missing here? What's the weakness of this Skink melee list? Let me know in the comments, and maybe what kind of off meta list are you thinking about? And we'll try to run through some of the off meta lists for Seraphon here in the next few videos. All right, guys, catch you later.